What is up, guys? It's Asai, back again with a new video. We're gonna be diving a bit into glitches again. It's been a while since the last one, and it was kind of an introductory video. Found a couple new techniques that I think will really help improve the edit. What we're gonna be doing today is a lot of video distortion, data moshing, and AVI synth. So without further ado, let's hop into programs that we're gonna need. Well, hello again. Unfortunately, my audio recording was, I'm gonna say, iffy at best. So I'm doing a bit of a dub over, but it should be okay. The process is pretty self-explanatory on screen, and really I'm just here to help you fix some of the settings that you might need and maybe explain a few things as I'm just dawdling around. Alright, let's go. So the first thing I'm doing here is just dropping my footage into Virtual Dub. I just want to select a little clip here instead of the entire video. It's going to be way too long to DATAMOSH and also way too complicated. Just take a long time and it doesn't really work too well. I'm looking for things that have slow sweeping movements. That way that the video can compress well, and the way DATAMOSHing works is that it takes certain chunks of your encoding and it more or less takes the pixel movement of certain video and applies it onto the look and the pixels of another frame. So if you have one frame that has all the information of like color and shading and whatnot, then the rest of the other frames that you're going to use the DATAMOSH with are going to tell those like chunks of image where to go. And you're abusing that to more or less move things in the wrong direction or the wrong error. Here we go. So I think I ran into an issue with encoding it really quick. I go to full reprocess mode, compression xvid is the one that you're going to want to use, which I'm going to select in a second here. You're going to want to configure it if you have xvid installed. Otherwise, honestly, you can just use Handbrake for this step if you already have your clips shortened down. In my case, I'm just setting the maximum quality for the xvid. I wouldn't recommend any lossless format, as AVI synth really can't, Avidemux really can't handle like lossless AVIs of any format, so not even my personal favorite, which is Lagarith lossless codec. So even that out of the box just probably won't work unless you have some plugin for Avidemux, which I don't know about. It might even work on newer versions, but keep in mind that we're also using Avidemux 2.5, which is quite old. Here I'm just finding a second clip. In this case, I'm using the clip of him moving in from behind, nice and slow motion, lots of contrast with the subject, so it's going to be easy to compress, which we're doing now, but we'll do properly in a sec once we get it into Avidemux and trimmed down. So I'm just setting process to high, just getting this done as quick as possible so we can get a file, and then I'll see you once this is done. So now we're opening up Avidemux 2.5. We're going to take those two short little clips that we saved earlier, which I have in the tutorials folder, which I just opened up, and we're going to drop them into Avidemux. We can unpack the bitstream. I don't think I do this the first time. Oh, maybe I do. We can unpack the bitstream, and we should notice that we have a video that maybe looks slightly blocky, but otherwise should be fine. In Avidemux, it's easiest just to scroll with the scrub with the arrow keys. Scrubbing with your mouse is kind of buggy. One sec, let me open it again. I messed up the bitstream, so I open it with no, but that's not what you want to do. I'll be back in a sec. Alright. So we're going to open up the footage. Yes, to bitstream unpacking. We're going to change the format over. I'm just scrubbing through it with my arrow keys to make sure that it's all working. It is. It's fine. Change the format to AVI, and we're going to go to MPEG ASP XVID. This is just a certain encoding style. We're going to need to change some of the configure options though. All of them we can ignore except for frame, which is where the information is. So iframe interval, that is the interval of iframes, which are the pixel storing frames, and then B frames are not what we want. We just want iframes and P frames. So we're going to set maximum consecutive B frames to 0 and iframe interval to 999. That way it'll generate one iframe at the beginning of the clip, and then it should only generate P frames for the rest of the clip. So we're going to hit save. Let's put in a random name. I just call it 1_ Avidemux AVID just to differentiate it. Hit save. This should take a few seconds, maybe up to a minute, depending on how long your clip is. Mine are pretty long right now. If it's a short clip, it'll happen pretty much instantly. And now that that's done, it's saved. We're gonna go to close. Sorry, I forgot to rename this. When you're saving it, add a .avi at the end. It doesn't do that automatically. Now we're gonna go to File, Close, and drag in the second clip that we exported from VirtualDub. And we're gonna do the same thing. The settings for video, especially if we just go to ASP Xvid, should be all the same already. So if we go to frame just to check, yep, all good. Now we can do the same thing. RNEC, I'm just gonna call this RNEC2 Avidemux. And once again, .avi this time. Once again, we're just gonna wait for this to do its thing. Should be pretty quick. All right, now that it's done, we can go to close, and we're just gonna open these two new files in. So we're gonna drag the first one in first. Those are compressed, hyper compressed, weirdly compressed iframe versions. So we're gonna drop the first one in. We should scroll through, and we'll notice that and by the frame type at the bottom, it says P for all the frames except for the first one, which says I. That's good, that's what we want. Just scrolling through to make sure that's the case, and it is. So I'm gonna drag the second one into Avidemux. It's gonna add it to the end of the first one. Just like so. Now if we scroll through the entirety of the first clip, we'll notice, keep in mind also that they're all P frames, that when the second clip begins, we'll have one single iframe. I'm using my arrow key to do this, just holding it. And there we go. One single iframe at the beginning of the clip, and then the rest are also P frames. So when we get to this iframe, we're gonna go one P frame ahead. We're gonna click B to set an endpoint. We're gonna go one frame behind with this iframe and hit A. And now we're gonna go to edit. In a second, we're selecting this frame and hit delete. So now that frame is deleted, and we're going from P frame to P frame. And what this is doing is it's going to take the movement encoding information of the second clip. And although in Avidemux you can see all the color information, when we actually export this, it's not going to see any of that color information. It's going to think it's still the mountains, but it's going to move it according to how the pixels are being moved in the rest of the clip, which will look like a person kind of coming towards the camera, or the camera moving towards a person. So we're going to go to video, copy, and we can just save this as an AVI. I'm calling this RNEC Moshed. Save. We don't need a smart copy, just hit no and OK. Once again, I'm going to have to type in .avi at the end because I forgot to do that. And now if we double click it to open it up, or open up VirtualDub, we're going to see that we have a DATAMOSHED result. Pretty cool. If you wanted to add more, like a second DATAMOSHED clip to this, it's very easy. All you'd have to do is just add a third video clip in to your entire Avidemux comp, and then just delete the iframes again. In fact, you don't even need to encode them to this crazy degree if you just want to spend your time deleting iframes, but this is the best way to do it without having to delete ridiculous amounts of frames. Looks pretty cool. Pretty easy to do. Just make sure you don't get lost in the files. It usually takes a lot of trial and error because certain encoding types don't work from program to program, so just keep that in mind. But otherwise, that is more or less it for this effect. Oh yeah, and also if you want a cool example of this kind of effect, Bo Burnham has a really cool video with a lot of DATAMOSHing distortion. And I mean, there's the Lamborghini High video, which is kind of a classic for this effect. Everyone knows about it from that music video. Sorry, I'm peeking out a bit here on my speaker. Okay, for the second effect, we're going to need to first turn this into a uncompressed video, because the way Audacity works is you're importing just raw data. So we're going to have to turn this video into the most raw form as possible. In that case, we're going to drop it into Virtual Dub and just encode it as a lossless AVI. That's going to save as much information as possible ultimately, which is what we want. So compression, uncompressed, hit OK. And now we're just going to save this as a video, same way as we did last time. Keep in mind this is our original video, which is not weird. It's just like has its normal video compression. This is not the, you do not need to use the Avidemux edition of this. We can just save this real quick. The file might be a bit large, but don't worry about that too much. You can just delete this once it's all done. Audacity's video work generally ends up with large files and long processing times, so I would try to keep your clips to a minimum length if you can. In my case, I've trimmed it down a ton, even though there's not a ton of movement. But I'm just also going to turn the audio off. We don't really need it. It's extra information that we don't have, even though I don't think this video actually has any audio. We can just save this as odd. I think I saved it as odd, just so I know, differentiate itself. And let's let this go. It should be pretty quick. That's all we need to do in Virtual Dub, so we can close it down. And now we have this copy of the video, which is all good. We can now go to Audacity. We're going to go to File. Oh, there we go. File, we're going to hit Import and Raw Data. This is very important. We're not importing audio, we're just importing a file, and we want to import it as just ones and zeros. Let's find the video that we wanted to use. It's in tutorial and IoT. It's the uncompressed. Let's open it up. And now we're going to want to use the A-law encoding. I've heard people use U-law for photos, for bitmap photos. Hasn't gotten it to work with videos, so I recommend A-law. We're going to change the byte order to no endianness. And we're going to just keep the channels at mono. Usually if you're importing proper audio files, you might set this to multi-channel, but obviously we're not actually importing proper sound at all. This is just a video it's taking the ones and zeros, the bytes that make up the video information, and just importing it as a sound. So we can just say import now. It'll take a little bit of time. You'll probably end up with an hour-long clip, hour-long soundbite, depending on how intensive your video is, how large the file is. I would not recommend playing this video or this sound. It sounds absolutely terrible, as you might expect from something that is just a bunch of randomly generated noise. And now we're going to select a portion of the sound. I would give it a bit of space at the very end and the very beginning, because that's where the information, the file information is. So like the header and footer, doc string types, especially if it's, I mean, I wouldn't recommend importing in AVI, but that's where it saves the AVI information. So thumbnails and all that stuff is saved at the very beginning and maybe at the end. So select a portion in the middle. And now you can get to the meat of this, which is you can add audio effects that do different things to your waveform, which in turn do different things to your data. So just from experimentation and having seen results that other people have done with this online, compression, echo, reverb, and wah-wah generally have very good results. Although, I mean, on your behalf, you may as well just experiment with them. No matter what, they all should result in a finished video. I'm just setting the echo to some random setting, not too intense, but 0.1. You can go higher. You'll just get slightly more distortion. Once it's applied, you can just deselect your entire clip, and then go to File, Export, and Export Audio. It's very important. You're going to want to export audio because you don't want it as a music file or anything. You want to change it to something you'll see in a sec. So in this case, we're setting it to uncompressed. Obviously, we don't want to save it as a WAV. We want to save it as an AVI file, which is not supported technically. We're going to set header to raw headerless. Obviously, all the header information from the original AVI file is still in that waveform. It's just at the very beginning. We don't want to overwrite that, otherwise it'll be confused. And then encoding, we're going to set to ALAW. Same as we did before. We encoded on import as ALAW. We're going to encode as export. As we export in ALAW. Otherwise it'll get confused. And then make sure that you add .avi at the end of your file name. Very important. Otherwise it'll save it as a raw file, and your computer will try to think of that as a camera raw file and won't give you a video. We can just hit yes to this little warning that comes up here. We do want to export under this type of file. We want an AVI, obviously. And now we wait. We wait for it to do its thing. It might say that the video is corrupt at this point if you try to open it. If you didn't select the beginning or the end, you should be okay. Now we can see if there's a thumbnail, that's a good sign. And we can open it up, double click it, and there we go. It's short, but pretty neat. And this is the kind of distortion that it'd be pretty hard to pull off within a regular video editing program, even After Effects. This would be a bit intensive if you were to try to somehow arrange the pixels like this. I don't think there's no plugin that would do this, obviously. But there's also no easy way to displace certain information that in color information separate from the rest, which makes this pretty cool. And it totally looks kind of weirdly corrupt. And it's definitely a look, definitely a style that you could go for. Perhaps if you're doing a music video or a super stylized work. But kind of up to your use case, if you can think of a cool way to use this information. But in any event, the other options are a bit less data distortion heavy. Some of them just compress colors and whatnot. But that's it. You can drag all these files into After Effects. They're just regular AVIs, despite their weird corrupt nature. I hope to see some of the stuff in your guys' edits. I think it'd be cool to check out. So if you have any cool ideas, or you've put this into a video, feel free to just send me a comment or throw a link in the comment of what you made. I'll be happy to check it out and give my 2 cents. Other than that, thanks for watching. This has been Asai, the voiceover Asai and edit. Hope to see you guys again soon. Alright guys, thanks for watching. On a side note, I got a Fiverr set up for video editing work that you need done. Link is in the description. As always, you can find all the rest of my social media there. Check out some of my other channels for edits. For some of my other projects. A lot of 3D stuff that I do on this channel. And I do a lot of editing on my other channels. As well as I'm also live on Twitch. So, if you want to, drop by, stay around for a little bit, drop a follow, be playing some games, having fun, be chill time. Hope to see you around.